Um, it's Saturday, no longer snowing, but it's pretty cold out. It was about 14 degrees Fahrenheit this morning when I was out for my morning walk. Um, I managed about 2 miles fairly briskly, briskly being subjective when you're walking in snow and ice. The worst part was where the snow had been walked through the previous day. So it was sort of trampled down and then frozen over. So it was in ridges that was pretty hard. Um, so when it's dark out, there's a distinct possibility of rolling an ankle. I do my best not to use a flashlight. I have a pretty good flashlight. I have several headlamps from my ultra running days. Um, the truth is, I don't want to bring light into the darkness of the morning if I can help it. I have it, and it is for emergencies. My One of the reasons I'm out there is for least disturbance, meaning that I want to be part of the dark morning. I want to be part of the natural world. I want to reemerge myself as part of the fabric of nature, belonging, deeply so. And to do so means it's better to allow my eyes to adjust to the dark. As well, I'm getting that ambient light. The sun's not coming up yet, but it's closer. So there is a smaller amount of, maybe not smaller, but a certain amount of daylight that is, or sunlight, that is arriving to me, even if I don't yet see it. And that's a really good metaphor. It's a really good metaphor for where we might find ourselves in life, because we're all going to find ourselves in some pretty dark places, all of us, at one time or another. Um, and when we're there, we're not going to be sure if the light's going to come, if things are going to get better. This is it. We're down in the very depth of the dark night of the soul. And when you're there, you simply don't know. It doesn't seem as if faith will um, keep you going. It doesn't seem as if faith can um, keep you buoyant, keep you from sinking into that darkness. Faith alone. And of course, there aren't really any actions. I'd love to say, well, meditation will take you out of it, that breath work will lift your spirits, that yoga is beneficial, and all of which is true, but not immediate. The immediacy of the dark night of the soul is the immediacy of the dark night of the soul. There is no light. There's no faith. There's no hope. There is exactly what there is. However, here's one thing we do know, that things change. Everything changes. Good news and bad news. It does sort of mean that things can get worse. Um, but it doesn't mean they necessarily have to. It doesn't mean that eventually things turn in the better direction. As long as we're alive, there's always change. No matter what, there's always change. So, quite a leap from a morning walk in the snow to the dark night of the soul. But maybe not necessarily, because we never know when that dark night of the soul is going to hit us. Or if we're going to emerge to the other side, or if it's the end. Are we going to sink back in eventually? Good questions. Wish I had the answer. I've been through my dark night of the soul a couple times where I don't know what sustained me. I know when my divorce, probably the hardest, more so than with my father. more so than with my mother. With my mother, it was almost a decade long of Alzheimer's. And it was sad, it was tough, but there were so many sad and tough days leading up to that. Alzheimer's is a continuous loss. The person you love is continuously losing the sense of self, and you are continuously losing the person that you love. Through it all, I really found some grace with the experience where I could see the essence of my mother. Beyond the personality that she was losing, I could see the pure spirit of my mother emerging. And that was helpful. With my father, he had a good, strong life up until he was 92, almost 93. He passed away at 93. Actually, I'd say he had a good, strong life, even beginning of 93. And then it was a short but steep decline. And for him, I think he felt it was as much of a relief to have things end as it was for him to continue. Although I was perfectly happy being his caregiver, I just knew how tough it was on him. I knew how tough it was on him to feel dependent upon us, even though none of us made any issue of it, including my dad. But it was tough. Those were hard periods. But the divorce definitely was the test of, is this my dark night? And in many ways it was. Divorce is a loss by choice, by at least one person. Sometimes two, but definitely by at least one person. So, as well as just, sometimes that dark night emerges and we just don't know why. That's why it's called the dark night of the soul. We just lose faith. See, Peyton is here. Hello. How are you? I appreciate you joining me. I was talking about walking in the morning in the snow, and somehow sort of found my way to talking about divorce, Alzheimer's, my father's death as well, and the dark night of the soul, losing faith. In some ways, it's all connected. I was talking about why I walk early in the morning before the sun comes up, and I'm reluctant to use my flashlight. Don't want to disturb the natural world as little as possible. I want to be part of it. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I want to be part of the natural world as much as I'm capable of, meaning that I need my eyes to adjust. Not just my eyes, I need my body to adjust to the cold. I need my spirit to adjust to the atmosphere itself, that I'm here to cause the least bit of disturbance. And sometimes you see something. The other day in my local pond was the first sighting of a beaver in 20 some years. It was pretty exciting for me in my neighborhood, and I was so tempted to shine the light on it. But beaver certainly wouldn't enjoy that. So there's always that temptation to see more than my eyes naturally want me to see, naturally allow me to see. But at the same time, I'm disturbing nature, and that's not why I'm out there. I'm not there to impose my ego upon the natural world, but to find my true self, my truest self, within the natural world. With that, it becomes a spirit walk. And again, this is how I got started about the dark night of the soul, is you have to find yourself in the darkness. Don't keep ordering light to show up. Don't keep begging God for light to show up. Light shows, the dawn comes when the dawn comes. We can't hurry it. The light arrives when the light arrives. It's not for us to say when. So there's definitely a spiritual metaphor to be had in that. And I take that walk early in the morning, and I've talked about this quite a bit, you know, the health benefits of getting early sunlight. Even when you don't yet see the sun, you have that ambient light, um, which is helping you. And what it's doing is it's causing your natural production of cortisol and norepinephrine and um, adrenaline to be produced in the perfect amount that you need to start the day, not overdoing it. If you're not getting that hormonal spike where you feel on edge, that fight or flight, you just feel ready. And then those same hormones will die off through the course of the day. And in their wake, in the raw material left over, they turn into serotonin and melatonin, the sleep hormones. So you can see how waking up early and getting that first light is part of sleep hygiene. What you do as soon as you're up in the morning is going to help you get to sleep later. How you start your day is so important. It's always better to ease into it than not have to leap up and then go and go and go and go, but to step gently, slide into the day. So for me, because right now I am blessed with time, but even when I wasn't, sorry, my cat is here. One of my cats insisting on being part of the conversation. So even when I didn't have time, the important thing is to realize we're all blessed with 24 hours. Um, if I'm up a little bit earlier, I get to meditate. I get to do my yoga, and I get to write. I love cats too. Um, Dogs as well. I I have a shared custody dog that I get to see pretty much every day, except for some days and if the weather's too bad. Um, she doesn't make it over. But I have two adopted cats that I got when they were 10. They are, they'll be 12 soon. They were two black cats, sisters, that had been with each other for 10 years. The people at the shelter were afraid that some people wouldn't want to adopt two cats, let alone two black cats that were 10 years old. And they didn't want them to be separated. So when I was told that, I was like, well, it's going to bother me to think that I could have taken them in and kept them together and maybe they'd be separated. So I went ahead and got them. And they quickly, took them a few days, but after that, they settled in and said, this is home. And perfectly happy and content here, as I am having them here. Thanks. I appreciate that. So, easing into the day, I like to get my writing as well. That way, I know, one, with meditation, I know that I've lit that lamp of inspiration. I've hit the spark of creativity that's going to shine a light on my writing. And then a little bit of yoga, and then my first and only cup of coffee for the day. Used to be more having some sleep issues for well over a year. Caused me to readdress almost everything that I was doing so that I could get some sleep. Nothing, man, I really can't think of anything being worse than having sleep issues, especially when they are caused by anxiety, panic attacks, which floored me because through my life I had done everything right. I had a 30-year plus meditation practice. I did yoga. I practiced breath work. Worked out. Was an ultra athlete. I ran ultra marathons. Vegan. Everything checklist all the way down. And I would have thought that I was bulletproof. I did think that I was bulletproof. That I was You know, if someone were to say, do you think it's a possibility for you to have anxiety and panic attacks? I would have said, I see no reason why. You know, I have um, a sense of being able to navigate through life with a certain amount of ease. Why would it hit me? And then it hit me, which made it even worse because then I felt guilty. And it, for a long time, because I teach meditation, because I teach breath work, I felt like I couldn't even admit it to myself. The worst thing you can do, because then it just doubles down. In the middle of the night, or sometimes right when I was going to bed, feeling fine, and I laid down, and it was like laying down on a bed of razors, um, or electric wires, and I would just be um, up. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't lay still. The entire night, I would pace up and down the steps, do my best. This is when I was a caregiver for my father in his final days. Do my best not to wake him. So quietly walking up and down the steps. C. Peyton says, my panic attacks seem to be getting worse. I'm sorry. There's, it's just so hard. I definitely feel for you. Some of the things that you can do is some of the things that worked for me. Like I said, I rearranged everything up earlier. I'm up very, very early, but I don't think anyone needs to get up as early as I do. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Means I go to bed earlier, but it's a trade-off. There's something magical about those early hours. That's the secret time. The Persian poet Rumi says that's when the doorway between the two worlds are open and we could ask for what we wish for. And he urges us not to go back to sleep. And the author, pretty well known in the 70s, Jane Roberts, said that we all receive a wake-up call from God between the hours of 3 and 6. But most of us hit the God snooze button and we say, I'll get back to you. Regardless of anyone's belief in God or not God, we could just say the word spirit or universe or reality itself. It's all the same thing. Those hours are when we can set the intent to heal from our anxiety and our panic attack. We can get that early morning sunlight, which again helps us sleep later, helps keep us calm. Breath work, extremely helpful, but it has to be the right kind. Right now, there's sort of a everyone loves to do the deeper, faster breathing, as if anyone's familiar with Wim Hof, which is a valid form of breath work. But when you do that, it can actually worsen panic attacks and anxiety, which I actually didn't know at the time. So I had to shift and relearn my breath work to get a calmer, more coherent breath, which really helps panic attacks. When the panic attack feels like it's on the edge, really pay attention to the exhalation versus the inhalation. That actually slows down our heart rate when we exhale slowly. You could do a 4 and 8 breath, meaning you breathe in for a count of 4. Doesn't have to be 4 seconds. Do it at your own count. Always use your nose. Breathe in for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 8. If that's too much, you can start with 4 and 6. Breathe in for 4. Exhale for a count of 6. And do 10 easy rounds. And then pause. See how you feel. The problem is when we're in a panic attack, we can't rationalize. We can't say, I'm in a panic attack. I need to do this. This is what I have to do to get out of it. If we could, it wouldn't be a panic attack. So we sort of have to find ways of recognizing that edge, recognizing those signs, and then easing out of it. As if you see something shocking right in front of you, and you start taking steps backwards, slowly backing away from the situation. And that's what we have to learn to do with the panic attacks. But You got to recognize those, being on that razor's edge, and then you can start putting things into place. Um, but again, those early morning walks, um, early morning yoga, doing something creative always helps. We might not think it would, but it really helps to center our mind, and it slows down the breathing. C. Peyton says, I woke up the other morning in a full panic attack. It messed up my whole day. Yeah, I would imagine it would. I'm sorry to hear that. In that case, I think what I would do, what I've done in similar situations, it's almost too much to even sit and meditate. It's possible, but I think it was easier for me because I've been doing it for so long. I'm almost on automatic. So I think if I didn't have that meditation practice in place, my plan B would be to get dressed and head outside, get that fresh air, get some sunlight, even the early ambient light, and just move. Because as you're moving, your heart rate will start to settle, your breath will start to even out, your mind will start to get a little more still. Your mind responds to nature. It's a fractal world, meaning nature is made of those fractals, those hidden design within nature that correspond to each other. But at the same time, our mind, our brain is actually made of fractals as well, and they relate, resonance. We call it vibrations. So we're sharing those vibrations with nature, so we naturally start to settle down. So if you wake up in the morning in a panic attack, put some clothes on, put some shoes on, and just walk. You don't have to worry about walking super fast. Although if you find yourself doing that, that's fine. But as you're out there, you're going to find everything start to settle down and settle down and settle down. I hope that helps. So yeah, for me, I look for every way possible to heal myself of that anxiety, and I still feel it. But as I mentioned earlier, I've learned to recognize that edge, so I can sort of start backing away from it. And the breathing. Do you meditate now, C. Peyton? Meditation helps with everything. And I'm not saying that because I'm a meditation teacher. I'm actually a meditation teacher because I found the benefits years ago. When I started meditating haphazardly in the 1980s. I became serious about it in the mid 90s. I made that vow I was going to meditate twice a day, every day, and I've stuck with it ever since. Everything started changing for me when I got serious about it. Habits that I had, including a decade-long drinking habit in excess to the point of wrecking cars, endangering people, drinking myself out of relationships and jobs and friendships. Everything changed. I stopped drinking without it being like this dramatic announcement that I'm going to do my best to quit drinking, or I'm going to go to AA meetings every day until I beat this. Or what happened was I had the realization that if I wanted to, I never had to have a drink again. And in a single moment, I was reborn as to someone who didn't drink. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen with everyone if they start meditating and they're drinking. But that's the way it worked for me. Definitely it was an epiphanous moment. a moment of grace. But all kinds of other bad habits. My diet changed naturally over a course of a few months, but I fell into a vegetarian diet because your empathy and your compassion increases, and you just want to find yourself in a less harming position. You just don't want to harm anything or anyone, or you want to do so less. So my diet changed. Eventually, over a course of a decade or so, I became a vegan. Um, I started writing every single day. My writing changed. I went from writing some darker poetry to writing more, um, what for me found uplifting stuff. I started doing some nature writing. I started writing about meditation and yoga, philosophy, started writing about science, um, relationships that no longer serve me, especially like the bar relationships that I were engaged in, naturally dropped off. I met the right people in my life. Not saying everything was always easy, but everything felt like it was full of a certain amount of grace. Um, dedicated myself to meditation to the point where I decided to be a teacher. Our friend Odom's Homestead is here. Hey, just a burpee, just a yogi doing burpees in his basement. I even get that wrong. Um, and it's been a couple months since I switched from my name to that. And sometimes I wonder if that was the right thing to do. Um, how are you doing, Odom? I hope the weather, I know you had some snow down there last week, so I hope the weather is doing well for your plants, for your homestead. So see, Peyton, I definitely recommend meditation. And for me, it was mantra meditation, Vedic meditation, which is a very easy method. Doesn't require concentration. Odom says, I'm doing okay. Still snow and ice everywhere. Still snow everywhere and ice. Same here. Not as much ice, but we had snow all of yesterday and through the night on top of the snow that we got on Monday or Tuesday. So yes, mantra meditation, you're not concentrating on the mantra. You're not forcing it. You gently think it to yourself at whatever pace, whatever rhythm seems natural and easy. And you're going to have thoughts and you're going to get distracted by thoughts. And then you're going to realize, wait a minute, I need to come back to my mantra. So you come back to the mantra. See, Peyton says, if I have a question, can I get advice? Certainly. I'm actually happy to help. I think somewhere on my channel is my email address. And you can just leave a comment and on any of my posts, and I'll find it, and we can always happy to answer questions, advice, certainly. You're welcome. Again, what you want to do, you sit comfortably in a chair. You don't want to lay down because laying down is associated with sleeping. You want to be able to turn your attention within, but you don't want to fall asleep. However, if you do fall asleep, it's okay. When you wake up, look at the clock and go back to finish up your meditation time. There are 4 things that can happen when you meditate, at least when we're doing mantra meditation. You can be thinking your mantra, whatever that might be, and you want something, and I'll help you pick one out if you'd like. You want something that doesn't cause an association so that it doesn't derail. Like a lot of people would pick the word hope. Um, but then you start thinking of all the things associated with hope, and you lose track of the meditation itself. So you want a word, which is why Sanskrit is so perfect, because you'll have a word that doesn't have a meaning, but has a vibrational frequency that allows you to relax. So you simply think the mantra, and then you have a thought. Perfectly okay to have a thought. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. You're not trying to empty the mind. The mind will quiet down on its own as you think the mantra. You might fall asleep, or you might slip into the gap, which is the role of meditation. The gap is the silence in between every thought. It's naturally there. It's always there. It has to be there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having thoughts. We'd be having noise. Just noise. No meaning to it at all. It's just like if you look at a paragraph, there's space between every letter so that we recognize the word. There's space between every word so that we recognize the sentence, and there's space between every sentence so that we recognize the paragraph. And on it goes. That's the natural emptiness of the book, the natural silence of the mind. As we think the mantra and we have a thought, the mind will naturally slip into that gap, and it'll stay there, sometimes just briefly, sometimes longer. The thing is, when we're in that gap, we don't recognize it because it's too quiet. You only recognize silence when you have noise. Otherwise, it's the natural state of affairs. So when you slip into that gap, it's like slipping into home. Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, said silence is the only voice of God. It's a beautiful experience. But if you're having thoughts, if you're thinking the mantra, if you fall asleep, if you slip into the gap, the only 4 things that will happen during meditation, and all 4 of them are perfectly fine. So you literally can't mess it up. Anything that happens in meditation is exactly what needs to happen during meditation. Odom is asking, I need to strengthen my back. What is the best no-weight workout to get my back more lean and strong? Body weight squats. A lot of people think, body weight squats, we're focusing on the legs, which we do, but it's also a great core movement. It's a great lower back movement because you have to have that natural arc in the spine. You want to do it nice and slow, going down fairly deep. It doesn't have to be for a whole lot of reps. You can do a couple sets of 10, and you could start off doing it. We squat into a chair, and you come back up and work your way until you're doing it without needing the chair, as well as throwing in a couple yoga postures. Downward dog, perfect. Forward bend, very gentle. Yoga doesn't need to be, we always think of yoga as the yogi putting his leg behind his neck or in that full lotus position or headstand, all of which are possibilities, but none of them are needed. It can be a very, very gentle. If you look up on YouTube, and I can share something on my channel, the sun salutation. It's a series of poses that flow together, and it takes 2 to 4 minutes, and you can do it several times. It becomes a natural form of meditation, and it strengthens the entire body. Most specifically, it really helps strengthen the lower back. So that's what I would recommend, starting off with squats. I'd also, if you could, throw in some push-ups. Again, we think of push-ups as an upper body, but you're in that plank position. So, but you're not staying there for very long, just long enough. So push-ups, squats, and the yoga sun salutation, I think would have you covered pretty well. Odom says, what about my sides? I started back working out a few days a week with weights. By side, are you talking about the lats or farther down, the obliques? With the obliques, you could do very gentle. Actually, I think for the obliques, I was going to say side bends. Side bends can put you back in a precarious position. One arm farmer's walk, where you're just carrying one weight. And you probably do that just doing your work on your homestead. But if you do it one arm at a time, your body has to work to maintain that upright position. So just walking with a dumbbell by your side and then switching hands and walking back. There's a well-known strength coach, Coach Stan John. You can find him on YouTube. That's one of his all-time favorite exercises. Helps fix the back. It's good for the shoulders because you're getting that, it's lengthening the rotator cuff. It's working the obliques, it's working the lower back, it's working the glutes, it's working the front abs, the core. So, all right, guys, it's coming up on 2 o'clock here for me, and that means I have to run. So, it was a good live session. Happy you guys showed up. And Odom, if you need any help and descriptions with any of that, let me know. I was looking for more low cardio, no weight workouts to stay lean. Well, burpees. Starting off nice and easy. C. Payton says, take care, friend. You too. And feel free to reach out and let me know any questions on meditation. If you want help picking a mantra and working with it, whatever you need, reach out. I'm here to help you. Odom, burpees, nice and easy to start out with. Several people that you see here all do. I'm a big fan of walking. I'm a big fan of rucking. Just getting either a weight vest or a pack and putting in, doesn't have to be heavy. You can get a 5-10 pound bag of rice. The great thing about rucking is it also strengthens the core, it strengthens the shoulders, as well as the legs, as well as the glutes. And it's a great low impact cardio workout. Doesn't cause the heart rate to soar, but it gets it up at that nice steady level so that you're burning some calories, you're getting a heart healthy workout in. Highly, highly recommend walking with some weight on your back. Just an easy backpack. So Odom says, thank you. Have a good day, everyone. You too. I'm going to take off for now. Again, anyone, feel free. Reach out, any questions, and if I can help, I certainly will. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for some burpees, and then we'll be back again live. Thanks again, guys. Take care.